This is Until Death, the Barrow Gang.
When I was quite a child.
In 1933, the population of the United States, roughly 123 million. Unemployment reaches its highest level ever in the country, with 1 out of 4 looking for work. The general life expectancy is 60 years. 1 in 5 own a car. Also in 1933, America inaugurates FDR, who in his speech is famous for this quote,
"That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself."
Those who lived in the Southwest at the time no doubt would have added the Barrow Gang to that short list. Born in 1909, Clyde Chestnut Barrow knew he was not cut out to be a farmer. His father, Henry Barrow, had been a sharecropper south of Dallas for some years prior to their move to West Dallas in 1924.
Henry was uneducated. They were God-fearing people that they tried to raise their kids the best they could. Jack, the oldest boy, was never in any trouble. Nell and Artie, the 2 oldest girls, they were never in any trouble. Buck, the 2nd oldest boy, was the one that morphed over into lawlessness, and Clyde eventually followed him over into that. LC, the youngest son, he never got in any trouble. The only thing, LC couldn't keep his snoot out of the schnapps. He kept getting busted for DWI. And Marie was never in any trouble.
After the move to Dallas, Clyde changed.
It was a bad situation over in West Dallas. You got to know the environment and things like that and how it started. They started off small, Buck, Clyde, Steve, Joe, things like that. They started off just like that.
Clyde did make attempts at maintaining employment, but his time with Buck put him on Dallas police radar.
But every time he'd get a good job, they'd come out and pick him up and take him downtown. Well, after 2 go-arounds of that and everything, the people would say, "Clyde, we can't use you anymore." And he'd have to find him another job. And after 2 or 3 jobs, he finally told his folks, he says, "Well, I'm just going to have to start doing what they're accusing me of because they won't leave me alone."
Licensed therapist Dr. David McMillan.
Clyde obviously wasn't into delaying gratification. To live an ordered life, you've got to learn some simple tools of discipline: delaying gratification, accepting responsibility, honesty, and balance. Clyde definitely wasn't into that. And so something snapped in him. He was already into the, if I want it, I'll take it, stealing chickens and minor thefts. But as he was harassed more and more, something snapped in him and he said, "Okay, I'll show him."
1930 was the year Clyde was introduced to Bonnie Elizabeth Parker. Born in 1910 in Marina, Texas, Bonnie had a much more centered life than Clyde.
Her father was a masonry contractor, Charles, and he died on December the 31st, 1914. And Miss Parker bundled up the 3 children and all their possessions and everything and moved to Dallas to be with her family, which was the Krause family. She raised those 3 kids by herself with, of course, her mother and father's assistance.
Bonnie was a good student in school. She wrote poetry and won a spelling bee. In addition, she protects her younger sister, Billie Jean.
She was smart. She was a wiry little rascal because Billy said she could whip up on half the boys in school. If they messed with her or such as that, she'd take them on.
Long before it became a matter of law enforcement business, Bonnie would tell me about herself. She always said she'd have liked being a singer or maybe a poet.
Bonnie meets Clyde at her brother's home.
Bonnie was over talking to Buster, and Edith's brother, Clarence, came by to see her, and he had a little fellow with him that had big ears and liked hot chocolate. That was Clyde Barrow. And Buster said that when those two saw each other, it was sparks flew right then and there.
Clyde lacked money to buy things to impress Bonnie, so he took to burglary. Cars impressed Bonnie, and no one enjoyed driving like the wind more than Clyde, nor could anyone drive so fast or as well as Clyde with Bonnie at his side.
Ted said that Clyde and Bonnie were just two kids that fell in love after Clyde had fallen off the wrong side of the law fence. He said if those two kids had devoted their innate abilities to legal endeavor, that they'd have both been world beaters. And it was like she told her mother one time when Miss Emma was on her about leaving Clyde. She says, "You know you're going to get killed, don't you?" And she said, "Yes, I know, but life without Clyde would be meaningless." So she had her dadgum horse and she was going to ride it.
Bonnie Parker was attractive.
Several of the men my age flirted with her, and Bonnie could turn off the advances or lead a customer on with her easy conversation. I'm sure she had been seeing Clyde on occasion at the cafe, but I have no memory of seeing the two of them together there.
Bonnie did, however, have a flaw: bad taste in men. Her husband, Roy Thornton, was in jail when she met Clyde.
And she married him when she was 5 days short of 16. He started fooling around with some crooks and everything.
Thornton's involvement with a gang out of Kaufman County eventually leads to an arrest and life sentence at Huntsville.
And he was in the pen the day that she was killed. Now, 3 years after that, he was killed in an attempted prison break. End of Roy Thornton.
Bonnie never did divorce him. She just said it wouldn't be right.
Bonnie Parker wore Thornton's ring when she took her last breath.
It tells me that she did have some sense of right and wrong, good and bad within herself, and that was strong. The fact that she never took that wedding ring off is really underscoring to me that loyalty, that personal moral rule that obviously that she had.
4 main players: Deputies Bob Alcorn and Ted Hinton, and Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker, all about to embark on a journey into the folklore of America.